Bob, the way I always like to look at contribution margin, and we use this drill as the example, is I know that if I sell one more drill, that $40 contribution margin is going straight down to my bottom line. We talked about EBITDA earlier. This is a direct effect on your EBITDA because you're taking out those variable costs.
That's literally true. If your company is at break even, let's say DeWalt's breaking even. I think they're doing slightly better than that, but let's just say they're
I'd
at
say
break
so.
even and they make one more drill, their EBITDA just went up by $40. So that's the power of knowing the EBITDA, because you know where that is and where your flexibility is in pricing. It points you to what you need to do from an efficiency standpoint. It helps you decide new marketing channels. But a lot of companies, a lot of businesses that we work with don't understand this. And most companies, let's face it, Davey, they're not one product companies. They have multiple products. We like to group them in product families, in business segments, so that we start understanding our business that way, and we start understanding contribution margin by those major components. Because invariably, if they're in 5 business segments or they have 5 families of products, one's going to be higher, one's going to be lower, and the other 3 are going to be in the middle. Well, how do we push another one to a high margin, and how do we bring that low margin one up at least to the average? So it helps us where we point our efforts. Where do we put our R&D? Where do we put our engineering resources? Where do we put our marketing resources? That helps tell us this contribution margin analysis is the first step in helping to make those decisions.
Well, absolutely, Bob. And on the sales side of the house, this is a conversation that we've had with a lot of clients. As you said, normally they've got multiple services, or if they're a retail or a wholesale client, they've got a whole line of SKUs, and that contribution margin can really vary across those SKUs. And if your salespeople do not understand what the contribution margin is for that item or that division, that segment, it really you can be putting your focus totally in the wrong place because you're expending the same energy for a lesser contribution margin product.
Yes, and there's the law of unintended consequences. And that's why we say commission programs have to be set up to help motivate the sales force to sell the products and services that we want to, which tend to be the ones with either greater volume and contributing lots of margin dollars, or greater margins, so that we can push the company toward higher profitability. But we've been in businesses where the incentive was on the low margin products and the sales force was doing a really good job, but we weren't making any money from it.
Well, that's the worst case. Worst case scenario is the incentives on the low margin products. I think what we see most often is the incentive is the same. Somebody said, hey, we're going to pay 5% or we're going to pay 10% commission because it seems simple and it seemed easy, but rarely do we see that as the right way forward for many companies as far as their commission and their sales structure.
Yes, it's the curse of the average. And we're all for being simplistic about things and doing things simple and non-complicated. We don't like 44-page commission agreements. It needs to be able to simple enough that it can be on 1 or 2 pages, but we don't want unintended consequences. And sometimes we motivate the sales force in the wrong direction, because they're going to go where they can make money. Obviously, they're incentive motivated people, and we want them to be. But we need to decide where that is. Are we trying to build margin through volume? Are we trying to build margin through each individual family? And that gets into a lot of marketing questions about, what segments do we want to be in? Where's the growth? What do we want the company to be in several years? Where do we want it to be a market leader, top 1, 2, or 3 in their geography? So this really helps us with that. But it's hard to do things on a across the board average. We never say do that, because not everything's the same. So if you have different margins, you may need to have a different commission structure for different product families.
Well, I think this is all really good info, and I know it doesn't fit directly into our equation of EBITDA times the multiple equals the business valuation, but it's definitely a portion of that. So when we come back, Bob, we're going to, in the next segment, actually start talking about ways to increase our EBITDA and increase that multiple. And obviously, as you might have guessed, increasing contribution margin will be a key part of that.
Absolutely. That's correct.